New Zealanders will vote on legalizing recreational cannabis in a referendum during the 2020 general election. The country is just as Minister said. A vote was promised by Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's Labour Party last year during cross-party talks, which helped to form a coalition government. It comes a week after lawmakers gave medicinal cannabis the green light. An opinion poll last year suggested 2/3 of New Zealanders favored legalization. We know when it will be. We have a commitment that it will be binding. And now, it is just a question on filling in the detail from there, said Justice Minister Andrew Little, following a decision by the country's cabinet on Monday. New Zealand's left-wing Labour Party is part of a three-way coalition government with the centrist Green Party and populist New Zealand First, NZF. The partnership was formed after inconclusive elections last year led to a hung parliament. The Greens have welcomed the referendum decision. We've had countless opinion polls for decades now, confirming New Zealanders are positively well ahead of political action on the issue of cannabis law reform. The party, its spokesperson Chloe Swarbrick said in a statement, this binding referendum presents an opportunity to have the will of the people trigger a meaningful legislative change. She added. However, the NZF leader Simon Bridges called the vote was a cynical move to distract voters from other issues around the general election. Mr. Bridges also said legalizing cannabis would normalize drug use. Cannabis is the most commonly used illicit drug in New Zealand, according to the US Drug Foundation. The charity says that by the age of 21, 80% of New Zealanders have tried cannabis at least once, whilst 10% had developed a pattern of heavy use. A vote in favor of legalization would make New Zealand the first Asia-Pacific country to allow its recreational use. Cannabis is widely prohibited throughout the world, but recreational use has recently been legalized in Canada and Uruguay. Two Scandinavian women tourists have been found dead in Morocco with cords to their necks, the country's Interior Ministry said. Both bodies were found near the town of Inro, in the high Atlas mountain range, near the foot of North Africa's highest peak, Mount Tepco. The women, from Denmark and Norway respectively, have not yet been named. A police investigation has been launched into their deaths. The Interior Ministry statement said, a popular tourist attraction has become the latest Chinese company to show solidarity with Huawei, its chief finance officer, Meng Wanzhou, who was arrested in Canada on 1 December. Shannon Mountain Scenic Park in eastern Henan Province said it would waive the $9 funded 65 yuan ticket fee for anyone carrying a Huawei phone. Ms. Mann, who was given bail in Canada, faces extradition to the US on charges of breaking Iran sanctions. Her case has upped tensions with China. Use Huawei phones. Shoot grand photos on the mountain. A notice on the Shannon Park's social media account said, we wish friends around the world who support Huawei's success and bliss. The offer would last until 29 December. The South China Morning Post reported that it was met with some criticism among China's social media users, who claimed it was discriminatory. Huawei phone owners are being offered other enticements to can get a 20% discount at a bar in Beijing, seen in Beijing, bring a Huawei phone and get 20% off. Similar to this story we covered yesterday, https://QXL19YPQLPIC. Twitter.com Sokolov. End of Twitter post by @LuOceanG. At least one firm has threatened to penalize anyone buying Apple products. A few days ago, Manpadi Shanshan-based LED and display manufacturer offered subsidies to any employees buying Huawei phones. It also pledged to fine anyone who bought an Apple iPhone. As prosecutors allege, Ms. Meng
46
used a Huawei subsidiary called Skycom to evade sanctions on Iran between 2009 and 2014. They also allege she publicly misrepresented Skycom as being a separate company from Huawei, and that she deceived banks about the true relationship between the two companies. Ms. Meng, who is the daughter of Huawei's founder, has denied any wrongdoing and said she will contest the allegations. Life of Huawei is high-flying errors. The United States has been investigating the Chinese telecom giant, the world's second-largest smartphone maker, since 2016, believing that it used Skycom to bring us manufacturing equipment and millions of dollars in transactions to Iran in violation of sanctions. Ms. Meng's detention comes amid an increasingly acrimonious trade dispute between Washington and Beijing. China is angry at her detention, saying she has not violated any laws. Beijing has threatened severe consequences unless Canada releases the executive. Since her arrest, 2 Canadians, a former diplomat and a businessman, have been detained in China on suspicion of harming national security, as President Donald Trump said last week that he might intervene in the United States Justice Department's case against Ms. Meng if it would serve national security interests. I help achieve a trade deal with China if I think it's good for what will be certainly the largest trade deal ever made, which is a very important thing. What is good for national security? I would certainly intervene if I thought it was necessary, he told Reuters news agency. Canada reacted by urging Mr. Trump not to politicize the situation. Our extradition partners should not seek to politicize the extradition process or use it for ends other than the pursuit of justice, Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland said. The US military says it has killed 62 fighters from the Islamist group Al-Shabaab in 6 airstrikes in Somalia. 4 airstrikes on Saturday killed 32 militants, and a further 2 on Sunday killed 28, it said in a statement. This were the deadliest air attacks in Somalia since November 2017, when the United States said it had killed 100 militants. Somalia has seen a sharp increase in the number of airstrikes and casualties since President Donald Trump took office in the US in January 2017. A tally by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism reveals that at least 400 people have been killed in airstrikes since the beginning of 2017, far more than the previous 10 years combined. The latest strikes bring to at least 40 the number carried out in Somalia so far this year, compared with 35 recorded in 2017. The US has a huge military base in neighboring Djibouti, from where it launches attacks on the militants. Mr. Trump gave the US military greater authority in March
2017
to attack militants in Somalia. Traditionally, United States presidents have been wary of intervening in Somalia since ATN Special Forces soldiers died fighting militias in the capital Mogadishu in 1993, a battle dramatized in the film Black Hawk Down. No civilians were killed in the latest airstrikes, which were carried out in coordination with the Somali government. The US military said, alongside our Somali and international partners, we are committed to preventing Al-Shabaab from taking advantage of safe havens from which they can build capacity and attack the people of Somalia, the US Africa Command said. Al-Shabaab, which is linked to Al-Qaeda, has not yet commented on the latest strikes. Somalia-based security think tank the Herald Institute said, in a report published in November, that Al-Shabaab had been forced to change tactics following the upsurge in airstrikes. The institute said the group was now conducting fewer mass attacks on military bases, but attacks on government offices and businesses which refused to pay its taxes had increased markedly. The United States State Department, in its most recent report on terrorism, described Somalia as a terrorist safe haven and said Al-Shabaab remained a threat despite suffering setbacks. The group retained control over large parts of the country and the ability to carry out high-profile attacks using suicide bombers, explosive devices, mortars, and small arms. The report added, the US military says it has killed 62 fighters from the Islamist group Al-Shabaab in 6 airstrikes in Somalia. 5 airstrikes on Saturday killed 32 militants, and a further 2 on Sunday killed 28.